Right, so if I told you that an alleged anti-hate organisation was instead plotting with Israel to silence pro-Palestine voices in the media, notably social media at that, in exchange for donations, which also along the lines implicates Keir Starmer and the fall of Jeremy Corbyn into the mix as well, close ties to the Labour government still in place, as well as the Biden administration in the White House now, and if I told you this was all the work seemingly of one man you've probably never heard of, would you be surprised by that? This should be a huge story, a massive scandal on both sides of the Atlantic. But once again, it is a story solely being carried by alternative media, in part the very reason why the guy at the centre of this storm, who has his fingers in so many apparently disreputable pies, and yet publicly is the face of an anti-hate campaign group, remains relatively unknown. Well, emails exposed by investigative journalist Max Blumenthal has found the paper trail, found the email exchanges, and so we really do need to talk about this chap at the centre of a global hate storm favouring Israeli atrocity, seemingly for cash, as well as the damage his wider malign influence has had on British politics. Right, so massive story, and you know it's huge because the mainstream media are ignoring it completely. But to think there is a guy out there tying Starmer's Labour, Biden's administration in the White House, pro-Israeli manoeuvres, the gagging of pro-Palestine voices, including aiding in the bringing down of Jeremy Corbyn, yet is the public face of an anti-hate campaign group, and most people will likely still have never heard of him. Yet here we are, and the guy in question is a London-born guy called Imran Ahmed. Let's begin with the Labour Party links in the UK, because being born in London, you'd kind of imagine this is a good place to begin weaving matters together. Ahmed was part of the neoliberal Starmeroid end of the Labour Party. With Jeremy Corbyn the Labour leader, as he still was at this point in time, Ahmed was part of that group, horrified at a socialist leading a democratic socialist party. The Labour right had lost control of the party, and when control is all they covet, or covet first and foremost above all else, bringing down the guy with the real transformative vision for change for this country and the people in it became their overriding priority. During this time, Ahmed was apparently working as a special advisor for Labour right MP Hilary Benn, son of the great Tony Benn, but without any of the greatness. At the time, Benn was still Shadow Foreign Secretary, Corbyn trying to embrace and bring together the broad church of the Labour Party by having a shadow cabinet from the left and the right. Of course, the Labour right wanted none of this. They just wanted him gone. And of course, come 2016, when it came out that Hilary Benn was urging other shadow ministers to resign if Corbyn ignored a vote of no confidence, Corbyn, of course, gave him the sack. Shortly after this, there was, of course, a leadership challenge. And I'm not talking about the ill-fated attempt to topple Corbyn by the man who will only ever be remembered in the Labour Party for having been beaten by an ice cream van, Owen Smith, but the even more ill-fated leadership bid of the now Starmer Minister for Border Security and Asylum, Angela Eagle. Ahmed went to work as her head of communications for her very short-lived campaign, and within hours Eagle had had a brick put through what was allegedly her window in her constituency office of Wallasey. The claim being it must be a rotten lefty Corbynite what done it, and the mainstream media were all over it. Because any sniff of bad press for Corbyn, and they were on it like flies on, well, you know. Allegedly, the allegation being seen by me in a tweet from the Resistance TV Twitter account was that this was Ahmed's idea. And when the press came sniffing around, Ahmed banned off his staff from speaking to them. Well, why could that be? Surely you want to rub it in as much as you possibly could to say it's one of Corbyn's rotten lot. Well, one pretty significant part of that, one reason for that, was that the window that was actually broken was in a stairwell and not Eagle's office at all. So the entire scandal, if you will, was completely confected. The so-called Brickgate saga continues to follow Eagle around to this day, and frankly deservedly so in my view. Ahmed's greatest role in bringing down Corbyn, though, was his association with major funder of Labour-right figures and ardent Zionist Trevor Chin, one of Keir Starmer's biggest backers. And the fact that Ahmed also at this point went on to set up the campaign group Stop Funding Fake News, which most notably sought to defund and attempt to bring down the left-wing online news outlet The Canary, pro-Corbyn as that was, posing as a grassroots movement to tackle left-wing anti-Semitism as this group was saying it was. It gave other anti-left groups weaponising anti-Semitism more confidence to be more voracious in their awful conduct as well. Social media became an absolute sewer, with lefties having to tread very, very carefully so as to not bring all hell down on their heads at the time. I remember it all too well, as I'm sure many of you likely still do as well. Following Corbyn's eventual fall and the rise of the chin-back Keir Starmer, however, whose wing of the Labour Party Ahmed had been advising, Ahmed dropped Stop Funding Fake News, but having cut his teeth on it, seen what he could get away with under that guise, he went on to set up another group, the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, or CCDH, in 2020, and he did this over in the US, a group which has quickly bonded with the overtly pro-Israel Biden administration and sought to take to task enemies of that government and the Israeli government under the guise once again of spreading hate. Now, when one of those targets, according to disclosed internal CCDH communications, was Elon Musk's Twitter, or X as it now is, but it's still Twitter to most of us, a plan mooted last year as it happens to try and kill the platform off completely. Heck, Musk doesn't need any help to do that, frankly. But following this and similar actions against other pro-Trump figures, it has won Ahmed accusations in the US, given he is British, of being guilty of foreign interference, much as Musk is himself getting accused of at a much higher level of media interest right now, it has to be said. But in light of these actions by CCDH in Israel's interest, though, they were more than happy, it seems, to pledge to finance CCDH's work in combating online hate, when the hate they were combating was basically any criticism of Israel. Here's an excerpt from Max Blumenthal's Grey Zone coverage of this full expose, titled Leaked Emails Expose Collaborative Efforts Between Israeli Government and Centre for Countering Digital Hate, which you absolutely must read in its entirety. It includes, as the title implies, various emails exposing all truly brilliant investigative journalism. Ahmed, for his part, has dismissed the charge that he colludes with foreign governments as a kooky conspiracy. The Centre for Countering Digital Hate researches conspiracy theories. We don't engage with them, he said. However, internal CCDH emails obtained by the Grey Zone reveal that while Ahmed nurtures ties to the Labour government in Britain, the self-styled anti-hate campaigner also enjoys a secret collaborative relationship with a rogue foreign government whose leadership currently stands accused of genocide by the International Court of Justice and is wanted for crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court. Provided by a CCDH insider who requested to remain anonymous out of fear that Ahmed and his allies would retaliate against him, the emails reveal that top officials in the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. helped introduce Ahmed to potential funders and were even invited to review a CCDH report before its publication. The report urged Meta to remove pro-Palestine Facebook groups on the grounds that they promoted anti-Jewish hate. Ahmed's responses all but confirm the authenticity of the emails. The contents of the exchanges suggest that his relationship with the Israeli government is long-standing and has played an important role in shaping his organisation's agenda. Email exchanges earlier that month demonstrate that Ahmed met with top Israeli officials to discuss funding for his censorship operation. Following a June 3rd meeting with Ahmed, Israeli Embassy Minister of Public Diplomacy Sorsan Hassan wrote the CCDH director to connect him with Israel's permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, Daniel Maron, and to introduce him to some of the philanthropists that might be interested in your work. Facebook is notably mentioned there. A significant number of pro-Palestine accounts and posts are being heavily censored on Meta platforms. And with CCDH now significant in Israeli support, they've been even more hardline about pushing that censorship, demanding what are being referred to as sweeping crackdowns on pro-Palestine content on those platforms. The 5-year plan for Ahmed apparently is to see any content creator who dares to engage in what CCDH themselves define as hate speech get demonetized. The problem is CCDH under Ahmed and his apparent Israeli funding see no difference in pro-Palestine speech and hate speech. Showing solidarity and support and getting the truth out for Palestine is something they want to see punished. We cannot allow that to happen, but it's already happening. For example, my good friend Steve Walker over at Squawkbox is seeing significant amounts of their content being censored on Facebook. So it's more important than ever that if you can help support your favourite independent media, because they are under attack for reporting stories like this and continuing to cover the atrocities being meted out by rich and powerful Israeli interests. And it's important we keep speaking out about it, because otherwise you may not hear about stories such as this one, where despite Benjamin Netanyahu seemingly determined to open up further warfare on more fronts, he might not have the soldiers to do it with. And there's a whole raft of reasons why that is, which I've delved into in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe to the channel as well to help support the channel and ensure you don't miss daily future content, in light of which I will hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers folks.